Büyük veri için yeni nesil veri entegrasyonu. Son günlerde sosyal medyanın gücünü Gezi Parkı olayları ile hepimiz daha net biçimde anladık. Bu teknolojiler geri dönüşü olmayan bir hızla hayatımızın merkezine yerleşirken veriyi büyüttüğünü, hızlandırdığını, çeşitlendirdiğini biliyoruz ve yaşıyoruz. Veri odaklı organizasyonların bu değişim kültürünü benimseyerek süreçlerinin bir parçası haline getirmeleri için daha çevik ve proaktif olmaları artık bir zorunluluktur. Fırsat olarak değerlendirebileceğimiz büyük verinin ihmali, organizasyonlar için öngörülmeyen maliyetleri, karmaşayı ve riski de davet edebilir. Geleneksel platform üzerinde kısa zamanda geliştirme yapabilmek ve hedeflenen operasyonel çözümün oluşturulması büyük önem taşımaktadır. Doğru bilgiye, doğru zamanda, doğru yolla ulaşmak ve bu sayede güvenilir çıktılar oluşturmak için bilgi yönetimi gizliliği ve kalite kontrol süreçleri düzenlenmelidir. Ancak bu şekilde son teknolojiye terfi etmek ve Big Data'nın potansiyelini ortaya çıkarmak mümkün olacaktır. Clarke şimdi bize Informatica'nın nasıl hızla oluşturulabilen, rahatça yönetilebilen, esnek bir şekilde uygulanabilen bir yapı kuracağını açıklayacak. Dear Clarke, stage is yours.
Thank you. Me again. And it's now, I just looked, it's 3 o'clock in the morning my time. So I often don't do presentations at 3 o'clock in the morning, so it should be fun. I landed last night at 1:30, so get right into it. So our last Informatica presentation of the day is on the topic of big data. So when I was up here before, I mentioned that it's a very exciting time to be in the data business. I think when you think about big data and all of the opportunities that it presents, it makes it that much more exciting. There's just so many things, there's so many examples of what organizations of all kinds are doing with information today that really gets me excited about coming to work every single day. To know that as a provider of data and information solutions, we are unlocking potential of information in ways that we never have before. You know, curing diseases, understanding customers, helping Internet of Things, so many opportunities. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing on this front. So there's so many examples, as I said, that you can really pick from. I think everybody probably has their favorite. You know, we have all types across a number of industries. We just had our Informatica World Conference in Las Vegas. A few of my friends from KOMTAŞ were there. And we heard some excellent stories around how we're gaining insight that we just never saw before using big data related techniques. So whether you're in healthcare or retail or government organizations, looking to big data is really going to be that focus area that's going to allow you to become that predictive, prescriptive, analytics-based organization that I mentioned. So pick your case. Now, getting into big data is not necessarily easy. If you look at what most organizations are doing in this particular area, they're faced with a real struggle. And it kind of goes across both the business and IT pillars. So I keep standing in the way of what's on the screen, so hence why I'm moving so much. But from a business standpoint, as this topic of big data and this concept of being able to unlock insight like we've never had before becomes more and more discussed in the market, your business leaders get so excited about types of things that they can do, and they just want to really start to grasp onto all these different types of insights. So your marketing organization wants to know all about what your customers are doing with your products, who's saying what about those product consumptions. We heard earlier from Turk Telecom that they're looking at sentiment analysis by way of Twitter feeds. Lots of organizations are doing that to see, you know, do people really like what we're doing? Do they like what we have to say as a brand? And you can imagine what a sales and marketing person would want to do with that type of thing. There's examples all over the business in terms of where we want to start to see that level of insight. The challenge is IT, on the other hand, is really struggling with the cost aspect of it. So while the business wants to innovate like they never have before, IT says, that sounds excellent and everything, but we only have a limited set of resources and we can only do so much. So there's a balance that needs to be met across the business in terms of how we can start to unlock that innovation within our data, while at the same time not have to go down a path of excessive costs. So let's talk about these in a little bit more detail. So as I said, the business really is connecting innovation to data. Turk Telecom, looking at sentiment analysis to understand what their customers are saying about their brand. We had an opportunity a year or so ago to have I think it was Dell Computers came to a marketing-based event that we had in California. And they have a brand management organization that they had created where all they did was have a task force of individuals that sat in a room filled with computer monitors that watched Facebook feeds, Twitter feeds, LinkedIn posts, various other social streams for any sort of reference, positive or negative, about the Dell brand. The idea here was, in order to maintain and be able to proactively react to various sentiment about that particular Dell brand, they needed to be monitoring that on an ongoing basis. So if somebody said something bad about a recent purchase, the experience, the product that they got, whatever it was, Dell wanted to be able to see that very quickly, address that complaint in the open world of social interaction, and resolve that particular issue. Excellent example of being proactive to the needs of your customers. The downside, of course, is we can't afford to have a room of individuals sitting in front of a room full of TV monitors. It's just not effective. More information starts to come in, we need to drive some efficiencies. And they found from an IT standpoint that this was not an environment that was going to scale. We heard about GE. GE has their engines that are on their jets, and they generate something in the order of 1 to 2 terabytes of data per flight. So if you have a large aircraft like a Boeing 747 that has 4 of those, that's 8 terabytes of information that the business user can now start to do analysis on operational efficiency and various things of that nature. So you can go around the board here and you can find examples in your own business. So it's excellent to try and untap that innovation. But the flip side is, as I said, IT is really struggling with the cost. So there's the data growth aspect of it. There's just too much information for us to be able to store it on-premise in a cost-effective manner. We could try, but it's going to cost us a lot of hardware, we're going to a lot of database resources, and over time it's just going to become cost prohibitive. At the same time, we've got pace issues. The information is coming to us so quickly that we need to have some sort of mechanism to be able to address it in a very rapid fashion. There's this idea of timeliness that is becoming more and more pronounced in today's market, where if the business can do all those types of insight that they came up with on the previous slide, it's one thing that they can answer those questions, but they'll become more and more demanding, saying, I want today's data today versus a week from now, as is the current environment. So how do we bridge that gap between where they are now and where we need to get them to be? And the other aspect of the challenge with IT when it comes to big data is the resource cost. So there's this idea of the data scientist. And if you look, I kind of wish I included it in my slides, but Indeed.com is, I'm not sure if you use that here, but it's a job resource center at least in the US or North America that organizations can put job postings on and you can go and apply to. But they also offer some level of analytics in terms of what types of job titles are appearing more frequently over certain periods of time. And you look at the data scientists, and it has a growth rate of something in the order of 4,000% over the course of the last 18 months. So there's this very big demand for a data scientist that comes at an extraordinary price tag. In the Bay Area where I'm from, the average data scientist earns a tremendous amount of money, well over $200,000 US per year. So very expensive, but also very hard to find. There's a lot of asks for them, but not a lot of these people are out there. And so IT is really struggling with how they can put these things together. Now, if you kind of step back and think about big data in and of itself, you could say that it is just another form of analytics with just different forces at play. We've got volume issues, we have variety in terms of the types of information that we're viewing, and we have the velocity and the pace at which it comes. So if that's, if it's just another type of analytics with new forces, it would follow suit that data integration is still one of the most core components to doing this successfully. So while, big data project and everything that we can see that comes out, if we use this iceberg analogy, is at the top, really the hard work is everything that's below the surface in this particular graphic, which is unlocking the information from all those sources and improving the quality of it so that we can actually do that set of analyses. And there have been reports from a number of research organizations that say that level of effort and everything that we see under here makes up roughly 80% of the total set of activity that you're going to do over the life cycle of your big data project. So here we are with this, this need to do data integration and quality and all these other types of things. We know that it's cost prohibitive to put a bunch of hardware on site. We know that we have limited resources, so what do we do? How do we actually make a big data project come to life? And this is where Informatica starts to come in. Another interesting statistic, 4.4 million jobs in the next 2 years in the big data space, only of which a third will actually have available resources. So there's a very pronounced difference between the demand in organization and what they're going to be able to do. So if there's this big gap between where we want to get to and the resources available, there needs to be some sort of solution in the middle. So this is where Informatica comes in. We viewed this as an opportunity for us and believe that our solutions can help organizations just like yours bridge that gap between business want for innovation and IT's struggle to maintain costs, lack of resources, and all these different types of things. So using Informatica for a big data project, you still have your access to all your source information. So for our Power Center customers, all of that connectivity that you have to all those sources of information still exist. But you also have the ability to get to unstructured information, social media and weblogs if you want to, machine-oriented data, whatever it may be. Leverage the capabilities of the Informatica platform to do things like data archiving, data quality, extract, transform, load, whatever it is that you want to do. Push that out to the consuming applications for analytics or whatever that may be. And do all this within the safety of your Informatica environment. When it comes to big data, and perhaps you want to start to do some big data analytics processing on Hadoop, because we have this virtual data machine, which we call Vibe, as Charles introduced this morning, we have the ability to use that exact same environment that you use today and unlock that potential of big data processing without any additional resources. So all of those Informatica developers that you have are suddenly Hadoop developers. So instead of having this need to go out and get some portion of that 4.4 million people set of resources within your organization, you can actually start to do a big data project today with the technology that you have and the people that you have on staff. They don't have to train on how to program in Hadoop and Pig and Hive and Cassandra and all these other terms that are there. You can get value very, very quickly, all by being able to push down the capabilities of Informatica data integration into these environments. So how does this kind of look? So we look at big data. It's going to build, and I'm not going to be able to see this anymore. But there's different types of information that we ultimately want to look at when we think about a big data project. So there's, on the left-hand side, what we call big transaction data. So that's all that types and sources of information that exist within your organization today. So you've got lots of customer information. It's getting more and more components to it. You've got additional demographic information. You have more customers. Perhaps you acquire somebody. Your customer set grows bigger. You have more products, whatever that may be. Your traditional source of information, what you're using for analytics, is just growing and growing and growing over time, and you need to consider that volume of it. You then add in kind of this interaction data component of it. It might be the social sentiment analysis types of data like Turk Telecom is doing. But it could also be machine-oriented. So we have a customer in the United States that's a trucking company that ships goods via big trucks from various parts of the United States to others. And they have sensors on all of their vehicles so that they can monitor the performance of the driver. Is the engine running efficiently? What's their fuel consumption looking like? Is the vehicle being operated over a certain amount of time that it's only allocated for? And they're converging that down into other operations. Another huge source. So you combine those two types of things together, it creates a very big headache to have to deal with. So we have what we call Power Center Big Data Edition that allows us to unlock all this information, put it all together, regardless of what type it is, regardless of where it resides, regardless of how much of it there is. So high-speed data ingestion and extraction, get all that information from your existing source information in the transactional systems that you use today. Universal data access so that whatever that source of information is that you're looking for those new pieces of insight, machine data, Facebook posts, Twitter feeds, whatever that may be, connectivity to that, and be able to push all that down into Hadoop environments. No-code productivity, so as I said before, it is that Power Center environment. This is not a new set of tooling. It's all right there in that Power Center environment that you use today. So you don't have to start to get new skills up in your organization to do these types of things. We have both developer and what we call analyst level interfaces into our products. So there's various levels of complexity based on who's actually using this. So we can start to drive business and IT collaboration. So as you can imagine, if you have a very technical-oriented developer-based tool, it's going to be very difficult to get a business user to engage in the process of managing data, whether it's big data or otherwise. So what we've decided to do is say, okay, let's take some of that complexity out of these environments, yet serve up the capabilities that we need a business-level person to engage on. Perhaps that's reporting, doing some sort of collaboration around how outcomes of data integration should look, and remove that complexity so that both the business and IT teams can come together. And unify the administration across all the components. So it allows us to enable this broader big data environment on many levels so that you can drive success. So there's a big detailed level of capabilities that we actually push down, such as ETL. We can do complex data processing all directly in a Hadoop environment, data quality all directly in a Hadoop environment. Essentially build that within our Informatica tools, push down the processing of all those tools directly into a Hadoop environment using our virtual data machine. So we separate the development experience from where it actually executes so that you can use those capabilities that you have today to actually make this happen. So we can start to look at, getting rid of that cost concern that we had before. So we talked earlier about, we can't start to bring all this information on site, so let's start to use these Hadoop environments, and maybe we want to look at that. We don't have the ability to go out and hire a lot of people, let's use those Informatica developers. So we've got all the information on the left-hand side that we want to get to. We can still access, ingest it, parse it, cleanse it, push it out to the sources of information on the right-hand side as we did before, using all the same resources. We can do grid-based deployments, if you want to. So there's kind of this hybrid environment. If you want to do some things on premise, if you want to push it down into Hadoop, this solution gives you the flexibility to do whatever you want so that you can actually make your big data process or project a success. Oh, and I should add on that one. Increase productivity up to 5 times. So we actually have some companies that are doing a lot of these big data-oriented projects. And what they're finding is when they initially went out on the path of starting to try to do a big data project, they decided to try and train up some of the engineers or actually hire people to do hand coding, what effectively is hand coding in the Hadoop environment to start to do data push down and some analytics on it. And the cost of the developers, the time in which it was taking them to actually make results come back was way too long and far too costly. So they turned to Informatica. They're starting to use the push-down capabilities that we offer within our tools. The integrations that they have today already can be used directly in a Hadoop environment, and we're literally seeing 5 times productivity improvements over where they were before. This also helps us minimize risk in that we don't have to go and write new integrations every single time. So we have data integration routines within your business today. So wouldn't it be fantastic if you didn't have to go back and modify those types of things, but you could just pick them up and run them on a new environment? That's exactly what we're allowing you to do with the virtual data machine. This idea of map it once, deploy it anywhere. So whether you're looking at doing it on-premise, in the cloud, in Hadoop, whatever that may be, we allow you to go down that path, all within that familiar environment that you already use today. So the risk of this goes down dramatically. And then obviously you can innovate faster. So if you can use skills that you have, if you can use tooling that you already have, or that's easier to come up to speed on, then you can onboard and analyze the types of information much faster than you had before. You can discover those insights, so you don't have to take a tremendous amount of time to unlock that information and start serving it up to your business. And then you can start to work on operationalizing this types of behavior very, very quickly instead of having to learn a bunch of new skills. I think one of the biggest things, and this is kind of like that triangle that I showed earlier in analytics, where we're seeing so much focus in the wrong area. So, we have, the example that I showed, I shouldn't say in the wrong area, but we have, in the example I showed earlier, we had a focus on kind of your on-premise analytics, and there's a shift to big data, and we need to kind of invert that triangle. Similarly, from a big data standpoint, there really is a focus on all the wrong areas. We spend so much time dealing with the preparation of information, trying to get connectivity to it, pull the data out of your social feeds, whatever it may be, which leaves very little time to actually do some sort of analytics on it. Because we're hand coding things, it's very custom, it's highly specialized, we have to go and get people from outside, that costs a lot of money. So we can only get so far. But with Informatica and simplifying this approach, this build works, we can invert where we spend our time. So instead of having very little time for analytics, we've effectively unlocked all your time for analytics, because this portion of the process is much smaller, because you can quickly use the things that you already have and start to get into this innovation very, very fast. So there's a big benefit to be had here, because you can, the analytics is where everybody wants to get to. And the project will just struggle if we're stuck in this mode where we're not really getting much benefit out of this. So as long as we're stuck in the mode where we can only do a very, very small piece of the analytics, the business users are going to start to say, this big data project isn't really worth anything. It's not helping me. It's not getting me those insights. IT's taking far too long. Maybe this isn't the right approach. But if we can get to here where we do most of our time on analytics, then the business can really start to excel and really start to unlock those new insights and drive real value. So there's a lot of examples that we can go through from a big data standpoint. This one's very interesting in that it's Internet of Things focused. If you have a new vehicle today, you'll know that a lot of them either come equipped with internet or have an option of being internet enabled. So I went to Austin, Texas a few months ago, and I rented a car, and it had internet connectivity in it. So I could connect my device. I could, if I pulled over on the side of the road, I wouldn't do it while I was driving, but I could get on my laptop, and I could actually work on a regular Wi-Fi connection, which is, I guess, maybe a good thing and a bad thing, because at some point in time you want to be disconnected from work and everything else, but it does have its benefits. So this automotive manufacturing is looking at it from a productivity and efficiency standpoint. So by having internet-enabled vehicles, they can, they created this connected car program, which gets them some sort of operational insight into what's happening in those vehicles as they're actually out in the field being consumed by you and I. So, they pull this information from the vehicle, push it down into an enterprise data warehouse, ultimately using our Power Center products, and then they can, serve up some kind of regular analytics around, who's doing what types of usage patterns are there, where are people moving to. But from a customer service standpoint, they are also leveraging proactive capabilities through our complex event processing engine to detect when problems arise. So perhaps somebody is broken down on the side of the road, tire blows out, whatever it may be. That level of insight from a customer satisfaction and the ability to serve your customers more effectively has very profound impact. So I just had this actually. I was driving late last week, and I had a tire blowout on my car. And so I had pulled over to the side of the road, and I was on a very busy interstate, so I didn't want to change it because it was on the driver's side and there was big trucks whizzing by. So I decided to pick up the phone and call my roadside assistance company, and I had to wait 45 minutes, and then they came out and they changed it, and I was on my way. So the whole process from the time it blew out to the time I called to the time they came and fixed was probably about an hour and a half. And I had my kids in the car, and they were getting uneasy and hungry and everything else. So it was a long, drawn-out process that I would have liked to have done without. In this particular scenario, what this company is doing is proactively learning about that type of thing. So in my example, when my tire blew out, they would have known about it. And they would have been able to call me, perhaps, and say, hey, we've just noticed you've had some issue with your vehicle. Do you need some help? Yes, that would be fantastic. My hour-and-a-half process to get this repaired is now shrunken down to half an hour or less, and I'm a very happy customer. So they're using that level of insight that they get from the vehicle to not only kind of understand what's going on within the vehicle itself and learn about, service behaviors moving forward and predict when things are going to happen, but they're also extending that to the customer experience and making sure that they can provide the best possible service for their customers, which is a very, very significant competitive differentiator. I think what's interesting thing about this is, the implications for the vehicle in particular are really interesting. So I read this article recently about, I think it was Volvo, who is doing what they call a connected car program. And the idea is that sometime in the future, you will actually be able to get in your car and not have to drive it. It will drive itself. And so there will be chains of cars on the highway. One of them will be kind of the lead car or the pace car, kind of like the engine in a train, and you will be able to merge into traffic, get behind the last car in this train, and by way of your internet connection, it will match the pace at which that front car is going, and you can effectively take your hands off the wheel, read your newspaper, whatever it is, and go down the road at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, whichever you want. And when you're done, you can disconnect out of that train and take back control of your car and move forward. And there's all these different types of processing that will become available just by generating this information out of a car. Examples are abound. You can think about how they just started with the ability to service their customers, but in the future, it's going to even extend the idea that much more. And there's just great things. I have this watch that my wife bought me for my birthday, and I asked her for it because I exercise a lot, and I like to use a heart rate monitor when I go out and either bike or run. And so, this one was one that I thought was really nice, and so I asked her for it, and it had a heart rate thing that I could use. And since I've gotten it, I've moved my usage away from just kind of looking at myself, but now starting to look at all the types of different information that I can get just based off of what this thing stores. So it has a GPS function on it, so it can track, where I go. I can upload the information that comes off of this to a website, which connects with all of my friends and my social feeds. The company, based on all that information that I push up, can push down specific information that applies to me. If I've been working out very hard for 5 days in a row, they'll send me an article that's specifically around training patterns and why working out very hard 5 days in a row is not necessarily a good thing. You might get hurt and tired and various other things, but they're also going to use that information, I've since learned, to work in partnership with medical companies to observe patterns around individuals who have heart disease, perhaps, or diabetes and various other things. And that has all come out of what used to be just a simple timepiece. And there's just all sorts of amazing big data related stories around there. And it starts with just a simple concept and ultimately will become these just very, very impactful use cases and levels of insight that we just never have had before. And it's all due to being able to unlock this information. So, from an Informatica standpoint, three things that we really think that we can bring to the picture on the big data topic. The first one is lowering your big data costs. So you don't need to do everything on premise. You want to be able to push things out into some of these new computing environments such as Hadoop. The resources that you can get for doing things on Hadoop are very, very expensive. So let's try to take that out of the picture altogether. Use a technology like Informatica, whether you have it or not, to start to build your integrations for both your on-premise deployments, but also for those future-looking analytics and get some significant benefits from a cost standpoint, 5 times the developer productivity, as I mentioned before. You also get to minimize your risk of new technology because it's something that you're familiar with. It's a single platform offering from us that extends value across our entire portfolio. You know that it's proven technology. It's nothing that's really foreign. You can leverage those skills that you already have and really ensure that you've got some success. And because that learning curve isn't there, you don't need to bring people on board. You've got tools that you're familiar with. You don't need to train up on things. Your time to value is that much better. You can actually get out and start to do something on big data analytics much faster than you could before. So that level of information, or innovation, your ability to serve up the needs of the business stakeholders and their desire to innovate is much, much better than what it could have been before. So with that, I wanted to say thank you. I always enjoy, this is my 3rd time to Istanbul. I always enjoy coming to the city. Very big topic, big data. There's a lot to talk about. In a 30-minute window is very difficult. But I encourage you over our break to come up, ask us questions. We're here to help and to answer any questions you may have. So thank you very much. I hope you have a good rest of the day.